Okay, so now I'm going to do the step in with you for pages 306 and 307. So for this step in, you are going to want to get a pencil out and you're going to want to follow along with me and write stuff down as I go because it's really going to help you to do the rest of your journal work if you write some of this stuff down. So let's get started. It says, count the steps of 5 around this clock. Write the numbers you say. So we're going to start right at 1 like we normally do, and we are going to count each step of 5. So 1 would be 5. What comes next if we're counting by 5? 10. 15. So I'm going to pause and I'm going to let you fill in the rest of the numbers, the multiples of 5, okay? And then I'm going to do it and you can tell me if you got the same thing. So why don't you pause the video and fill in the rest by yourself. Are you ready? Okay, I'm going to fill it in and let's see if you got the same thing as me. I'm going to stop right here and let's go through and count. Ready? 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55. Okay, so let's stop right there. What happened when you reach 12? What happens when you reach 12 on the clock? So, like I said in the last video, this is kind of like a number line from 5 to from 1 to 60. But I don't want us to get confused. So what I'm going to put up here is 2 zeros. Do you have any idea why I might put 2 zeros at our 12? Think about that for a second. You can pause the video if you want some more time to think. Why would I be putting 2 zeros there? So when we tell time, we wouldn't say, so if I added the hour hand right here, we wouldn't call this time 2:60 or 60 past 2, would we? No, we would call this time 2 o'clock, right? And so that's why I'm going to put 2 zeros at the front. I mean, on the 12. And so instead of thinking of that as the end of the number line, we can just think of that as the very beginning. And our number line starts at 0 and then goes all the way to 59. Okay, so if you wrote 60, what I want you to do is I want you to erase that and I want you to write 2 zeros. We're now going to think of the 12 as 2 zeros because that's how we would write a time when we get to 12. How many minutes past the hour is a half past time? How do you know? So we actually knew this before we even started doing intervals of 5, didn't we? If we had our minute hand on the 6, we knew already that this was 30 minutes past the hour, right? Because there's 60 total minutes in an hour, so if it's 30 of those minutes, that would be halfway, okay? And also, we can just take a look. at the clock, and we can tell just by looking at the clock that 30 is the halfway part of that circular number line. Okay, good job. Let's move on to our next part. So, how many minutes past the hour is this clock showing? I'm going to give you a chance. You can pause the video and try and come up with that answer for yourself. So, how many minutes past the hour is this clock showing? Think about where your minute hand and where your hour hand is. You ready? Which hour is it? Let's take a look at our hour hand first. We see that our hand has last passed what number? Has last passed the 6. What time is the clock showing? So we know the hour hand last passed the 6, so it's 6, and now we have to figure out the minutes. And we figure out the minutes by counting by 5s. So it's taken 3 steps of 5. Our minute hand is pointing at the 3, so it's taken 3 steps of 5. So it's 6, 5, 10, 15, right? 3 steps of 5 would be 15. So it is 15 minutes past 6. What is another way you could read this time? So we showed the time above as 6:15, or you can say 15 minutes past 6. That is how we're going to be getting used to writing the times in our math journal today. All right, let's look at our orange clock. What time is showing on this clock? I'm going to give you a chance to pause the video and figure out what time the clock is showing on the orange clock. Okay, how do you know? So, what did you get? How do you know? Let's talk about it. Let's do it together. So, the first step is taking a look at where our hour hand is pointing. What number has the hour hand passed last? What's the last number it passed? 8. And now we just have to count by 5s. So there are 2 ways we can do this. We can either start at 1 and count by 5s, or we can find a benchmark number we're already familiar with. We know what number this is. Do we know what number the 6 is in a snap? We do. We know that's 30, right? Because it's halfway to 60, and we've worked with halfway around the clock so much in 2nd grade. We've worked with the minute hand being on the 6 and that being 30 so much. So we know one more jump is what? 35. Let's check that we're right. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35. So there's 2 ways to say this time. We can say 8:35, or we could say 35 minutes past 8.